Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Corn Republic podcast. My name is Shor Bhattacharya. For the past few decades, Vodafone has come a long way and became a global giant and a household name in the telecom sector. But one of the things that sets Vodafone apart is that it's quite committed towards emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, blockchain technology, as well as Internet of Things. We're going to dive deep into that. And for that, I have the perfect person. He is the head of blockchain in Vodafone International, the one and only Mr. David Palmer. Welcome to the screen, sir.
Welcome.
It's an honor to have you.
Well, it's an honor to be here, Saurav. It's been a long time. I think we've both been chasing each other to make this happen. And I'm glad that we finally made that happen. So really excited to have this discussion, and looking forward to talking through some of the things that we're doing.
Fantastic. I mean, you have been a visionary who has worked in this sector for a while now, specifically for Vodafone, a long time, and you're one of the top 30 metaverse industry leaders. So how has the journey been thus far? Like, why blockchain in general?
I think you got to look at it in the context that we are, in an age where technology is moving akin to the industrial revolution of the past. So you have artificial intelligence, you have blockchain, you have Web 2 technologies, you have AI. You have 5G. There's a lot of different technologies coming together at the same time: cloud, edge, compute. And you combine all of these things, and it's powering a new digital revolution. And blockchain is just one of them, right? So from a sort of technology point of view, enterprises are looking at how you can put all of these digital components or these technology components together into a proposition that can create value for your customers and for your industries. So blockchain is a necessary one because blockchain can bring industries together. It can bring parts of the industries together and create that trust layer, which gives rise to a new automation boundary, essentially. And that's why we're interested in it, right? That's why everyone's interested in the technology, because where you have trust and automation, you have new forms of transacting, you have savings in terms of settlement and overhead processes. So the potential is really there. And not to mention some of the things around assets, which are also very interesting.
So Vodafone, in the recent context, Vodafone has recently invited people over to Mobile World Congress. You have been there as well. People entered Vodafone's Metaverse and flew 5G connected drone, which went very far. So this is a literal example of IoT application, right? So what are some practical industries that could avail of these sort of technologies? Defense, agricultures. What are you guys looking into with these technologies?
So for IoT, there are a number of industries, mobility being one. So the automotive mobility area, healthcare, supply chain logistics, others, agriculture being one of them as well. Insurance. I mean, these are industries where you have a large number of connected devices which are in operation, which are producing data, and which can give rise to new ways of more efficient ways of doing business and new revenue streams. So on the mobility side, what's really interesting is cars are obviously now connected, but there's also an opportunity to make mobility vehicles. So I won't just say cars, because you have EVs, you have combustion engines and trucks and vans, etc. But there is an opportunity to make mobility vehicles connected intelligent, smart, and monetizable. If you look at some of the sort of trends, one of them is obviously the move to electric vehicles. So in Europe, I don't know what the figures are in the States. I expect them to be similar, but in Europe, we're expecting 1.2 million chargers, additional chargers, to be put in place by 2025. So 1.2 million. And if you look at some of the other statistics, by 2030, we're expecting that 100% of all new vehicles will be electric. They're sold to the domestic market in Europe. So it's a massive transformation, akin to the transformation you had when you were going from horses to the steam car. It's a massive transformation. And to achieve that transformation, all of a sudden you've got cars needing to speak to electric chargers, right? There needs to be a way for cars to speak to electric chargers and for transactions to happen in a seamless way. And that is just one of the examples of Internet of Things having to embrace and accelerate the pace of development to meet a real business need that we're going through.
It's interesting that you mentioned business needs, because I was thinking Vodafone is a business. You got stakeholders and they got shareholders. You got all sorts of people, rooting for you guys. So from the business point of view, how are you going to, turn all these IoT technologies into economy of things? How would you define that terminology?
So really good question. So I think we're expecting in the next 5 to 7 years anywhere between 50 billion and 70 billion IoT devices. So a significant number of devices in operation. One of the statistics I use is that we're going to have roughly 10 times as many intelligent devices in operation as people, right? So that just tells you that, for devices to work, for devices to authenticate, to devices to operate, you can't have someone with a smartphone for every device, because there's 10 times as many devices as people. So that means that devices need to somehow have some autonomous capability for the things they're doing. In Vodafone, I think it's quite well publicized that we, I think for the last 8 years, my colleagues keep updating me, but for the last 8 years, we've been voted number one for managed connectivity IoT platforms by Gartner. So number one in the Magic Quadrant. We have 160 million or over 160 million IoT devices in operation, over 40 million connected IoT SIMs in cars. And I think that is only the beginning of the potential that is in the sector. And from a business point of view, obviously I pointed to the key transition that's necessary, right? So stage one is connecting the devices. Vodafone and others have successfully done that. The devices are creating a lot of data. The next thing is enabling those devices to create a marketplace. And to create a marketplace, as you know, the devices need to be able to communicate with each other securely. There needs to be some trust between the devices. And that is where one of the key enablers is what we call a digital IoT digital identity passport. And that passport, which is something that we provide, as an enabler on our digital asset broker platform, allows devices to speak to each other securely and trust each other across silos. So you can have company A's device, which can recognize company B's device, and using the passport, they can say, okay, you're trusted, and you can then get the other two things. So the other two things you need, is an identity, which is recognized across both of them. So that's the identity passport. The other two things you need are the ability to transact. So being able to connect a device to a payment credential. And the other enabler is being able to connect to an automated transaction mechanism like a smart contract. Now, with those three enablers, you have the interoperability across business ecosystems. You have the ability to transact in an automated way or autonomously. And then just for good measure, we have the ability for the device to sign a transaction using the SIM card. And those are the enablers you have: autonomous transaction, so connectivity, interoperable identity, and the ability to have an automated transaction. And that is the economy of things, right? And then on top of those basic capabilities, we'll start to see marketplaces spring up where you can take advantage of identity matching, and you can take advantage of instant payments or peer-to-peer payments for the sale of services or data. But it's logical to put these capabilities on top, because one of the business challenges you have is for all the millions of devices we have, or the billions of IoT devices in operation, 75% of the data is not used. And return on investment is something that obviously owners of IoT devices are looking to maximize. Is essentially, I see the economy of things as building on connectivity to make devices monetizable, right? And Web3 is a key enabler to that, because it provides the trust layer, it provides the smart contract layer, and obviously it provides a means for cryptography on things like the SIM card to link into sort of private key signing on chain for transactions. So it's pretty exciting.
Mm-hmm. So where does because you mentioned a lot of terms here, digital identity passports and all the payment infrastructures to get this thing done. So in blockchain, they call it blockchain trilemma: scalability, security, and adoption, right? So whatever stage we're in, Vodafone or anybody is at right now with IoT innovation, do you think security, scalability, and adoption is at a perfect equilibrium here?
I don't think you ever have an equilibrium. I think they're helping each other. So if you look at sort of Web3, there's 300 million owners of digital assets, right? So roughly 3 million people having wallets, or and engaging in Web3 purchases and part of the communities. If you look at the number of people with smartphones, it's over 6 billion. If you look at the IoT devices, it's it's billions, right? It's in the billions. So clearly on the adoption side, IoT and cellular are winning. In terms of powering the ability to power new business models and find new values, and provide new opportunities for customers or owners of IoT devices. That's clearly Web3, who are able to stretch the current boundaries we have. So in that sense, I think there's a balance of maturity and scale on the telco side, and opportunity on the Web3 side. And things like our digital asset broker economy of things platform is bringing those things together.
Mm-hmm. Well, we talked about the business side of the things from your side, but what are the competitors up to when you do your competitor analysis? AT&T, Verizon, the big boys. Now, what are they up to? What do you think? Are they catching up?
It depends on who you see as competitors. I mean, I think one thing that's happening at the moment is telcos are becoming techcos. Tech companies are becoming communication companies. Web2 companies are becoming Web3 companies. Web3 companies are embracing Web2. So I think you've gone from an environment where telcos are competing with each other, and we do and we don't. There is a mature industry there, to one where you have a lot of different players who are moving ahead with innovation and moving ahead to look at new business models and create new business. I think for the economy of things, clearly, if you look at the other telcos, we absolutely want to work with them, and I think there's some great things being done, in the area of Web3 and in the area of IoT by a number of the players. But if you look at some of the Web3 companies, you've also got Web3 companies that are looking at the economy of things as well. But
Right.
what I would say is that it's a very big market. So if you look at 50 to 70 billion devices, and essentially one of the use cases we're looking at here, which touches finance, is the ability to embed finance in an IoT device, right? So we can put a credit card or a debit card or a bank account or a payment credential into an IoT device and provide the automation for that embedded finance to be part of an IoT journey.
So by finance, sorry to interrupt. Just quick question here. By finance, do you mean decentralized finance? It is important you understand.
Not only decentralized finance. So one of the things that we're doing. So if you look at it, even the decentralized finance solutions on Web3 somehow go to an API, which is going to a front end, and there is some centralized component. And I think everybody's realizing that now. But what we're doing is, if you look at the finance world, 95% plus is traditional finance, right? And that's what businesses are operating in. If you look at where it's going, embedded finance is looking at how you can embed finance in journeys. And the sort of volume business is saying, okay, how can you embed traditional, bank account payments or traditional finance payments with an IoT device, right? And that is one of the use cases. The other one is obviously peer-to-peer, because of the sheer volume of IoT devices, billions and billions, and because you're going to have a lot of micro transactions, for data. The transaction costs of traditional finance, as they stand, make it uneconomical to have real-time peer-to-peer transactions, and that is where Web3 decentralized peer-to-peer payments, is very, very attractive. But you have issues there. So if you're doing that over a public blockchain, then obviously, depending on the gas fees, it's actually less attractive than traditional finance. So then you're leaning on layer twos, which our digital asset broker platform is. You're looking at layer twos to be able to roll up transactions and have things like optimistic roll ups, etc., to bridge that. So it's more complicated than we think, but we are moving ahead to have automated real world transactions, centralized finance transactions, but using cryptography on the SIM card. Right. Using the ledger to write the transactions to, and using smart contracts to automate that. And of course, tokenized peer-to-peer transactions are something that are clearly in the roadmaps and things we're looking at.
So you're quite excited about stuff like IOTA, like digital ledger technologies like IOTA from IOTA network. You're bullish on these things?
So IOTA is another economy of things platform that is looking at using the IOTA token for transactions across IoT devices. There are other protocols out there. I think the difference with us, and I support all of them. I think the market is huge. If you look at the market for finance in the real world, in the world of sort of consumer transactions or business transactions, there are millions of countries. There are definitely hundreds of thousands of companies participating in it. So I wouldn't expect that there's going to be one platform for the economy of things. So I think we can learn from each other. We can definitely coordinate and collaborate, and I think it's very positive. But if you look at
merge, you can also merge maybe in the future.
I see consolidation is something that naturally happens in the markets as well. But I think there's some key things that need to happen for economy of things. So I think the first thing is, the market will be determined by business, right? It's going to be about business. Right. I think trust and reputation are going to be a currency. I think scalability are going to be a currency. It's going to be a currency going forwards. And I think value and business revenue potential is going to be a currency. So, I think those are all things that will be important and key success factors going forwards. If you look at our position, so the digital asset broker, we have 160 million devices in operation now to kickstart the ecosystem. And it's very clear that in the modern world, you need partners. You need to look at how you can create flywheels and partnerships and mutual interests and incentives to build that ecosystem. And that is going to be a precursor to having the ability to have marketplaces that can really bring monetization going forward. So I think to an extent the business environment is changing. It's changing from one where you know who your competitors are, because we're all technology companies now. I think it's changing from one where you can do things on your own, because I think partnering is now a key success factor for this. And I think the other thing is that we are moving towards the importance of communities and ecosystems as key success factors. And this is where I think Web3 really comes in terms of being able to have something that allows communities and ecosystem partners to have some self-sovereignty, right? To have some control, to and to provide some trust, across ecosystem partners. And I think this is important going forwards. And these are the sort of elements or components that we're bringing together with Digital Asset Broker.
It's interesting that you mentioned community, because it reminds me of the last year. I think I covered it personally. I wrote an article about it, and I made an Instagram reel about it. About last part of 2022, you minted your this NFT, Merry Christmas, which was the first
SMS,
ever sent SMS. Yes. So was it just a marketing gimmick for the community, or was it something else?
So I think NFTs. I personally believe NFTs. We're only beginning to see the potential of NFTs in business. Of course, you've got to start somewhere, and memorabilia, is a use case. Digital ownership is the key use case for NFTs. And personally, I don't believe that you can judge Web3 and the different applications of Web3 just by what's happening in the token market. What's happening with the price of coins overall. There's a number of factors that have gone towards token values deteriorating over the past year, and I'm sure that they will fluctuate going forwards. But I think you've got to look at the real business value of things like NFTs. So and NFTs are digital ownership. We are increasingly becoming digital. They're a way to port that digital ownership across different ecosystems. If you look at some of the developments with NFTs, you have new smart contract standards. So if you look at Ethereum language, you have ERC 721, which is basically means you own it outright. Now they're extending that to 4907, which is a standard which basically means you can put a timestamp on it. So all of a sudden you go from using an NFT to buy a house or a piece of memorabilia or art to actually putting a timestamp on it so you can rent it, right? So, what that basically means is you could have NFT mortgages. If you buy a house or property, you could have NFT mortgages, NFT leases, NFT car rentals. So it gives a rise to a whole new era of business use cases for NFTs. You've got royalties, which is the new ER standard 2899. And others. So I believe that yes, we did mint that, but I believe that there are a number of additional use cases for NFTs which we'll start to see going forwards, including NFTs data, NFT for certificate ownership, all use cases which I'm sure will be explored going forwards. And I personally expect to see a lot more development in that area going forward.
Right. On a lighter note, though, I do hope that you bring back Zuzu, your mascot, Vodafone's mascot, as an NFT. What do you think?
Yeah.
But you have to disclaimer, though, it has nothing to do with CryptoZoo.
Yeah, I know. I think I think the whole area of generative AI is also really interesting. And generative AI. Generative art, which is something which is often tokenized using NFTs. So those are advances, but you can see the things coming together, right? So you can see connectivity, you can see digital ownership, you can see smart contracts, you can see wallets, you can see all of these key components coming together, to show how new businesses can be done. I mean, but there was two things that came out in 2021 out of the sort of blockchain winter. One of them was NFTs, which I think we've touched on. Incidentally, we're expecting, I think, in 2023 for the NFT market to start hitting sort of 83 billion. I think it did reach 240 billion in 2021. Then it went down significantly in 2022, and we're expecting it to start rising again. So I'm expecting that there'll be more use of that. But the other thing was DeFi. And I think you touched on that earlier, decentralized finance, which is finance, which is using smart contracts. And that is very interesting. And two things that sort of came from Web3, which are starting now to be reflected in mainstream business. So yeah, exciting times.
So from NFTs to Metaverse, Meta has reported a loss of 13.2 billion in 2022 in Metaverse. Meanwhile, companies like Roblox, Microsoft has also posted losses in their Metaverse division. So how is Vodafone looking to steer themselves to the top in such a space that is getting riskier and crowdier daily?
Yeah, well, I can't speak for Vodafone. I mean, it's a huge company. I can give you my sort of views on what's happening. And I think, with the Metaverse, I mean, it's interesting. I had a conversation at MWC this week, and they showed me one of the first smartphones, and it was like a suitcase. It was a brick, right? I don't know if you remember it, but it was sort of a brick. And then you had very limited adoption because it was very hard to carry. And very few people could afford it, and it didn't have a large battery. But then when you get down to the iPhone in 2007, suddenly you see an explosion of users. Right? It's easy to use, it's portable, more affordable, versions came out, and you saw mass adoption. I think the same thing is true of Web3 and the Metaverse, right? So because we say the word Metaverse, it doesn't mean it exists. What we have at the moment is some individual immersive environments which are not connected at the moment. And my view is that the technology to make the metaverse, right, a number of interconnected, interoperable environments that have immersive experiences is not here yet. We don't have the rendering, we don't have the connectivity. There's a number of building blocks that we don't have the interoperable digital identity. So there's a number of factors that need to come together to make that possible. And we're on that journey, right? There's a great journey. It's going to spur a lot of investment. I think generative AI is going to be a key one. It's great to see what's happening there. I think Web3 will be a key part of it. I think Web2 is going to be a key part of it. I think connectivity will be a key part of it. And I think traditional businesses will develop and evolve to operate in it. But we're at the start of the journey. And I think the first challenge is, how do we connect the metaverse, right? Is the metaverse infrastructure? Is it infrastructure? Is it connectivity? What is it? Connecting the metaverse is obviously the first big challenge for CSPs. And then, the other thing is then, how do you communicate in the metaverse, right? And what is very key is that communication in the metaverse will involve decentralized digital identity or digital identity at its very least. You will need to have communication which can somehow trace back to a real person, right, who can have liability and jurisdiction. Communication in the metaverse will be very different. It's got to go across different ecosystems, you got to choose how you do it. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a real opportunity. I think if you look at some of the forecasts, McKinsey recently published, or in 2022, forecast a $5 trillion opportunity for the metaverse. So US dollar $5 trillion opportunity. We've recently seen other forecasts come out around the same amount. And I think by 2034, 2035, we're actually looking at up to anywhere up to sort of 10 trillion or more in terms of the forecast. Will those forecasts be realized? I don't know. What you said about Microsoft and Oculus and making a loss, I think there are a number of reasons at the moment, if you look at the macroeconomic environment, why businesses are finding it tough, right? So I think we've got to take the noise out to see what the real trend is. But will people want to do more online in an immersive world? I think yes. Is there room for businesses to find efficiency by having more immersive, connected experience in a more joined up way? Yes. Can we increase productivity in the world by making it more inclusive and removing geographic boundaries? I think we can. Is there business opportunity in that? I think there is. And is there an opportunity for connectivity service providers to meet the challenge of connecting the metaverse? I absolutely think there is, right? On the finance side, is financing the metaverse going to bring evolution and innovation? I think so as well. Can you, for example, get a mortgage on a piece of land in the sandbox, right, or in one of these in Decentraland? If you do, who owns it, right? Does it have to link to the land registry of the country? There's so many different questions we need to answer, but are people excited? Absolutely. So yeah, it's an exciting world. I think whatever the position is in terms of, is the trend moving as quickly to drive profitability as we would have expected? I don't think it is, right? I think last year, if you looked at the hype, we thought it was just going to go straight up. But there are macroeconomic factors. I think one of the key things is how you access the metaverse, right? So I think one of the issues is when you see a picture of the metaverse, you see the sort of AR or VR glasses, right? And that is the access point. But if you're looking at 5% of global domestic product, that is not people at home, number one, and it's not people at home in glasses. That's people driving around, working in different areas, traveling, and if the metaverse is going to be relevant, they have to be able to do that stuff on the move. So then it comes down to, how do you access the metaverse, right? You got 6 billion smartphones. You have IoT devices. You've got television sets, monitors. I think we cannot just go to a world where you have to put a pair of expensive glasses on to access it. That will exclude a lot of the world's population who can't afford them. So I think access points to the metaverse is something we really need to think about if we're going to get the adoption and the profitability and the sort of critical mass of people using it going forwards.
So you do support Facebook's move going all in on the metaverse game. You're supportive of that.
And well, I can't really speak to it. Right? It's part of a strategy. I mean, clearly, Facebook is a Web 2 company, and maybe they're seeing that going forwards, the way to maintain that or to increase the sort of offering for their customers is to make it more immersive. I mean, that's a Facebook business decision. From my point of view, all I can say is that the indicators are suggesting that there will be a big opportunity in the metaverse. I think the question is, how do you realize it, right? What is that metaverse going to be? How do you realize it? Where should we be putting our innovation? And I think those are sort of strategies that individual entrants into that market need to look at. But what I can say is that certainly the indications are from the forecast that there is an opportunity there. But I don't think many people have answers as to what that opportunity is in detail or how it's going to be realized. But I think it's logical, right? The internet, has evolved. You had Web 1, you had Web 2, you had several different innovations to the internet. I mean, who would have thought at the beginning of the internet that we'd be doing our banking and financing and calling and running businesses, automatically 24/7 from the internet? So we've seen a big evolution of the internet, and I don't know the figures. You probably do, Sarav, but it'd be interesting to see what the value of transactions and business conducted over the internet is now, because it seems to permeate to everything we're doing, and that's come from nothing, right? That's come from Netscape and the early days of accessing over a modem and and where it was just a hobby for a few people. And I think it's logical to see a lot of further opportunity in the evolution of the internet to the next level. And obviously immersiveness, touch, collaboration, increased collaboration are things that can present a lot of opportunities. And if we take a step back in the world, we are caught between two worlds. I mean, you have to ask yourself, why, when I go through passport control or I go to rent a car or other things, do I have to show paper or physical credentials now? What does that mean, right? The world is run digitally, but we still seem to be caught between the sort of 1980s or Victorian paper systems of paper wallets, paper cards, letters, and the digital world, right? And at some point, to really realize the full potential of digital, you got to go all in on digital. And maybe that is something that the metaverse takes us to, right? Where we are going all in on digital, and that is the main route. And you can see it with things like previewing houses, designing houses, collaborative working. There are so many use cases and opportunities that you could see. Universities. Why am I physically going to a university or traveling when, if the technology is there to have an immersive experience from home, that would remove geography and increase the opportunity to people all over the world, right? So there are ways in which that move to immersiveness and digital can really make a difference. Personally, what I'd like to see is, there's over 1.7 billion people who don't have access to financial services. There's a lot of people who don't have access to opportunity, who can't join the workforce, even though there's high unemployment in some areas. There's some people who can't access business opportunities, even though they have skills because of their geographic location. And of course, right. we've seen some of that change with ways of working. But maybe the metaverse could remove geography, right? In which case, people can work anywhere in the world, and based on their skills and the business offering value proposition, they can participate in the world's economy and access financial products. So these are some of the things that are possible in this next evolution, and I hope we do manage to solve some of these problems.
And if we can't solve some of these problems, maybe we can just chat GPT it. Everywhere I go, okay, Twitter Spaces, Clubhouse, YouTube, everybody's talking about chat GPT, DALL-E. OpenAI is like everywhere. Now, my question is, do you see any loopholes with the AI ecosystem right now? And does it complement the loopholes in, big telco? Can it just complement each other somehow?
I think it's amazing. Well, I think generative AI is amazing, and I think we were waiting for this moment where all of this data that's being created, right, could suddenly be put to use, and you could see a real use case that didn't rely on training models for years and high overhead and being restricted to certain areas. I think what's great about Chat GPT is that it's open to everyone. I can turn on my browser now, download the app, and I can be using it, and it's great. And while we're using it, we're also training the AI. So I think it's useful, but it does pose a lot of questions, right? And it does. So I saw an article by the leader, one of the leaders of one of the big tech companies, sort of saying, yes, this can replace a lot of white collar jobs. And others saying, well, it affects the way we're going to work going forwards. It can answer my exam paper, this and that. So I think there are ethical and social issues that need to be considered. One of the things that we also need to consider is the algorithms, right, that are training this AI. And what you don't want is the algorithms to be programmed with the same biases that we have in some areas of society now. So if the AI is only looking at people who have got certain qualifications, or it's only writing on information that are on certain news channels or certain databases, then the people who didn't make it to those databases will forever be written out of history, right? As you don't have any way to do it. So I think we need to consider the breadth of information that these generative AI models are looking at. Are they just based in a certain country? Are they primarily America or Europe? In which case there could be a lot of bias or a lot of things we're missing, or a lot of things that aren't part of the conversation, right? We're only getting one view. So I think we got to go back and check that. But the technology is really exciting.
Speaking of technology, I got a whole range of questions about digital asset brokers. Right? So I'm going to club them together, and I want you to answer them. So since DAB works on the concept of blockchain, how do you plan to resolve the storage issue? Okay, will it lead to some sort of partnership with any other company, and are we hinting towards that? And I want you to answer if what are the factors of credibility in terms of digital asset brokers. Also, what does it do for retail industry in the metaverse? Does it act as a gateway for retail industry in the metaverse? So 3-part of the question.
All right. So in terms of storage, I mean, the storage isn't a blockchain issue. It's a general issue that we have in technology at the moment, which is how do you structure the architecture of data? What percentage of data is held at the edge? What percentage of data is held centrally, in the cloud, and how you can reduce latency associated with retrieving that data, and how you secure it, etc. And that is a wider problem, which extends beyond the digital asset broker. But in terms of that, I mean, I don't see data storage as a Web3 problem. Is what I'm saying. That is a wider infrastructure problem. And at the moment, certainly for the sort of volumes we have, we don't have a problem there. I think one of the benefits is that, of course, we're associated with the IoT platform, so the Vodafone managed connectivity platform, and that already has 160 million devices. So that sort of infrastructure we're already geared up for. So it isn't a problem. But I think you're absolutely right. Going forwards, I think data processing, data architecture, data structure is something that needs to be looked at. Obviously, there's new models of decentralized cloud and distributed databases akin to IPFS, which are really interesting, and some of that is built into what we're doing. Right? We digital asset broker operates as a layer 2 protocol. So our protocol is about how you connect devices and get devices speaking to each other over Web3 protocols, layer 1 protocols. But from this point of view, at layer 1, we're multi-chain, right? So we have permissioned elements to the chain for security sides and for privacy sides, but we also have public permission aspects as well. So the beauty of being at layer 1 is that we can interoperate across the right layer 2s to bring about the right scale and security that are enterprise grade. The second question was about, I missed your second question. So second question.
What does it like for the retail? Does it act as a gateway for retail metaverse?
So retail metaverse is an interesting one because we see a lot of like the Nike store and the different things that have been set up on the sort of retail areas of some of the sort of metaverse platforms. And the key thing for that is digital identity. Now, where DAB does come in useful is its ability to have a digital identity, an interoperable digital identity, which can go across people, business, and things, right? So organizations. So if you're buying something, the organization needs to have an identity that can be validated. The person needs to have an identity that can be validated. But also the back-end systems and devices need to have an identity that can be validated. What DAB does is make those identities speak to each other and enables them to start sharing and authenticating credentials. So in the retail side, that's really important. When you start linking that with location and the smart contracts, then it can be very powerful, right? So you have the concept of Amazon Go for web, Amazon Go for Metaverse, where you have location, identity, and payment credential verification that can enable some sort of frictionless retail shopping. But of course, the key thing to make it metaversable will be the immersive experience, which is something that is linked to the devices, the immersive devices and goggles that are in operation at the moment, which is something that is not DAB. But
I agree. Where does Samsung come in all this? Because you guys have a great relationship together. You cross many milestones in terms of 5G innovations. Hardware, software, IoT ecosystems. Do you have any scoop for us? You and Samsung coming together in the future?
No, I don't have anything on that. I mean, what I can say is that we are moving towards a world of connected devices. Billions of devices. Samsung, among others, are manufacturing wonderful devices. I think what DAB is offering is the ability to connect those devices from an identity point of view, make them interoperable, make them talk to each other securely, and also power a new economy where these devices can buy and sell data and facilitate service transactions between their owners and marketplaces. To power new marketplaces, new revenues, and create a new economy of things. And for that, it's important to work with all the leading device manufacturers and to jointly innovate new use cases, right, to realize new business models and revenues.
Right. You're a UK resident, correct?
I am.
So UK local government has been, seen their funding cut by more than 50% in the last 12 years. So how will Vodafone bridge this gap to make technology accessible for local government bodies?
Again, I can't answer that one. It's something we'd have to get to the right to the right area. But what I can say is that I can't speak too much about local government funding. I think governments all over the world are having challenges, as are businesses, especially in the current environment. But what I can say is that there are over 6 billion smartphones in operation. Most of the world are connected in a way that they weren't before. And that connectivity and access to smartphone technology is spanning different age groups, different socioeconomic groups, different geographies. So I think we're in a world of connectivity, equality, and opportunity that we haven't been in for a while, and I think that's really exciting. In the UK, especially, there's a lot of efforts to create innovation hubs and to spur creativity. There's Innovate UK, who are really doing a great job of encouraging innovation, and indeed the government are actively trying to position the UK for innovation and trying to track even Web3 companies to set up there. So I think all of that is pretty exciting.
Overall, the UK government is cool with emerging technologies. Can we just say that at least?
I think the government would have to answer that one, but what we're seeing in terms of actions is that I think all the indications via Innovate UK is that they're supporting innovation. They see it as key going forwards, and I like that. I love that. It's exciting, but we're seeing innovation all over the world because of these technologies that have come together, and I think that's also exciting. Going back to Web3, it's interesting how many protocols there are now, but they're going up. Investment in Web3 is going up. Investment in AI is going to go through the roof. Investment in connectivity is going up. So if you look at all of the technologies, there's a lot of investment going in, and I think we're all going to benefit from the outputs of that going forward.
No worries. I just tried to scoop something out of you with these questions, but let's go with the technical questions. I have to make the headlines, okay? It's okay.
No problem.
So Vodafone is currently exploring for inter-operator discount settlements and roaming through blockchain, right? So, what are the other potential which Vodafone is exploring to prevent data theft and better user experience?
Again, there's a number of initiatives. I mean, obviously, security is very important. Customer experience is very important. The digital asset broker platform, I think is supporting, improvements in security for IoT devices. There is a technology associated with that called SimTrust, which provides symmetric key, intelligent symmetric key encryption, which is also quantum proof. And I think when you start pairing that with location and digital identity of the devices and blockchain, which provides an immutable record of what's happening, you're starting to get a nice mix of components, or which are providing increased security and trust. And I think that is a precursor to having this new marketplace associated with the economy of things. But there are other things happening from other players in the market which are also important. And we've got to watch this from all sectors. I mean, again, the digital asset broker will not operate in isolation, right? We're part of an ecosystem. We're part of a marketplace. We're connected to Web3, we're connected to Web2, we're connected to IoT, we're connected to telecommunications, and that's why we need an ecosystem. We're moving from a place where one company can do it on their own to a sort of world where you need ecosystems, you need partners, you need people to come together to do that. Now, I think that's really powerful, because I think connecting things, connecting people, is something that can be a key enabler of that. Digital asset broker, has an addressable market of billions of devices. Those devices are owned by companies and people. If connecting those devices securely, providing them with monetization capability, can provide new revenue streams, then I think that it can only be positive.
We have touched most of the points: metaverse, NFT, scalability, profitability, ecosystem, digital asset brokers, ecosystem. But a lot of people are talking about the environment. See, carbon footprint has always been a hot topic in the crypto and telecom industry. So what are some of the services and partnership Vodafone is looking to expand in both sectors to reduce carbon footprint?
So one of the partnerships we have with DAB is with the Energy Web Foundation. We're also actively working. One of the key and first use cases we have is in electric vehicle charging. And we see the Energy Web Foundation as a very, very key partnership we have, so that when you pair it with electric vehicle charging, we can provide ESG reports. We can provide clean energy certificates for our customers and the platforms who are using our capabilities. I think that's just one, but I think an important one going forwards. I think sustainability, the move to EV, obviously, again, we're supporting that, not just from the mobility side, but from the electric charger side. We've got some exciting products and value propositions, helping to roll out chargers, helping to make the infrastructure more competitive and more joined up. And this includes private chargers, making private chargers making private chargers public chargers where needed. So, for example, if you have a private chargers in the area of a sort of stadium, which only needs those chargers where there's an event on a Saturday evening or a Sunday morning, the ability for DAB to turn those the identities of those private chargers into public chargers and to enable them to take payments, is really important to bring efficiency to the charging infrastructure. So I think things like that are important, as well as being able to demonstrate that clean energy is being used.
Well, there you have it. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to tell you something about Mr. Palmer. He's everywhere. Okay, he's attending conferences and podcasts. Mr. Palmer, you put communication in telecommunication. Let me just tell you that. So
No, it's
it
it's,
is
it's,
an honor
it's
to have
exciting
you.
times. Exciting times. It's
No,
exciting to be
I
on.
can say from the way that you answer these questions swiftly and dodge some of them, is clear that Vodafone is in the same safe hands. And one of the things that I really appreciate about Vodafone is that you guys have a very active blog, home blog, where you write about IoT service and all your services in general about technology. So you don't need to read separate tech crunches if you want to get updated on Vodafone's new innovations. You just go to Vodafone's official website and you can read their blogs. Uh, Anything you want to say to the retail investors who are probably going to be bullish on Vodafone after they see this interview? No.
No, I mean, I can't speak to investors. It's out of my league. I mean, all I can say is that we're living in really exciting times, also very challenging times. But the mashup of technology innovation at this point, I think, is really key. And it's exciting. I love what's happening with AI. I love what's happening with 5G and the move to beyond 5G. I love what's happening with Web3, digital identities, and DeFi and NFTs, as well as some of the things that are happening on Web2 or traditional technologies. And I think what's exciting is different players coming together to put these components of technology together to form different solutions. Digital asset broker, is one new platform. There are others in Vodafone, but digital asset broker is one of them where we've had the opportunity to do that. It's live. We're powering EV charging. We're looking at other use cases in supply chain logistics. And I think the beauty of it, the exciting thing of it is bringing all of these technologies together into a solution to meet business needs. And I think that's the difference. That is a differentiating factor for certainly for enterprise. So I hope to be able to come back, Surev, and maybe in a year or so's time, and update you on where we are and the new use cases we're
Absolutely.
following. But at the moment, I think it's just, we've got an exciting roadmap, and we just want to go on and implement and grow the platform.
Not a financial advice, but these are good green flags. Okay, so do get get the Vodafone updates on. You're probably going to see, and of course, you know what? Thank you, Mr. Palmer, but I'm going to sign off on a positive note, ladies and gentlemen. You can find the full episode on our YouTube channel. Of course, you're watching this on our YouTube. Make sure you like, subscribe, share. We're going to write an article about it in depth about Vodafone, and their emerging technologies later, based on this interview, of course. So it has been a great interview thus far, Mr. Palmer. It's an honor, and again, yes, let us catch up on all these updates a year from now. I can do this every year, all right? No problem, and I'll ask you the same stupid questions. All right, all right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.